I've been looking for a specific form of escapism lately. Laughing at bad media. Here are several things I watched with the hope they would be so bad it's good.
I wrote a lot of scripts, but I don't have time to edit them all, so here's a podcast.
I love so bad it's good media. Middling competence is boring, but something with clear passion that clearly misses the mark ascends to true greatness. Today I'll be looking at 3 pieces of media that I watched hoping for terrible greatness. 2 are anime series, 1 is a live-action Japanese movie. There are 2 key pieces to make something so bad it's good. First, obviously, it has to be incompetent. Bland is not good enough. You need some extremely poor decisions in acting, writing, or directing. Preferably all 3. Second, you need clear passion behind the project. A story someone was dying to tell but just couldn't clearly articulate. Let's see if any of these works of art can tick both boxes. First, Garzey's Wing, or its full name, Tales from Byston Well, Garzey's Wing, is a very bad anime. It's so bad you've probably already heard of it or seen clips of it.
I never said I was a holy warrior.
Then why don't we live together somewhere else, my friend?
If you had a convenience store, then I would live with you.
What is that?
But I know there are no vending machines here either.
But Garzey's Wing isn't bad in the traditional anime sense, an edgy power fantasy or full of bad fan service. This is bad in the style of classic so bad it's good movies. There's a crazy amount of information thrown at the viewer with laughably poor pacing, but everything happens so fast and so arbitrarily you can't help but laugh. But there's also some bad anime goodness in here too. For one, the dub is amazing.
No, it can't be true! I'm not joking. 12th and 13th century foreigners surround me. I must somehow make sense of our convoluted situations.
The production value is also very cheap, with many scenes having very minimal animation, something even the worst live-action films could never replicate, but which anime fans will be well familiar with. And like so many so bad it's good pieces of media, this had a determined writer and director behind it with a burning desire to tell his original story. But in this case, the director wasn't some unknown hack. He was Yoshiyuki Tomino, the creator of the multi-billion-dollar Gundam franchise. So he knows how to make a successful series. How did Garzey's Wing turn out so bad? This wasn't even an attempt at a new series. Technically, Garzey's Wing is a spin-off of Aura Battler Dunbine from a decade earlier, which was also created by Tomino. While nowhere near as successful as Gundam, obviously, Dunbine is not remembered as a huge mess. Let's talk about the actual plot, with minimal spoilers, to discuss what is it that it is so badly presented. Garzey's Wing is an isekai. We open with a very short scene with heavy cicada sound effects to establish that Chris, our protagonist, is going home after failing his college entrance exams.
Aren't you hot with such heavy clothes? Why do you have to go back to your hometown now? You failed the college entrance exam twice now.
It doesn't matter. I will come back after I attend the class reunion pool party tomorrow, Rumiko.
This may be intended to establish a theme of potential failure for Chris's adventure, but mostly it's just very confusing as an opening scene.
You are so easygoing.
And on his way home, Chris's spirit is abducted by a spirit goose as he passes a shrine.
This must be the place where Yamato Takeru no Mikoto came down from the sky. What the heck is this now? Ah!
His spirit is dragged into the world of Byston Well, where he arrives in the middle of an action scene, sans clothes and with wings on his feet, and a little fairy called a Filario that he's dragged along with him accidentally. That's the first 60 seconds, and unfortunately things get a bit less exciting from there. While Garzey's Wing is 90 minutes long, the first 10 are the peak of its entertainment, while the rest are at the very least coherent within scenes, even if overall the plot is still mostly arbitrary. The best part about Garzey's Wing that isn't comedy from wooden dialogue and animation shortcuts is the story it is attempting to tell, a story I wish more isekai actually told. Chris may have practiced kendo, but he's no warrior, and Garzey's Wing is a very unreliable power. What he does bring to Byston Well is modern knowledge. Most of the fights feature Chris introducing some new weapon or battle tactic to the Matomius tribe to help their war effort against the kingdom that enslaved them, and I'm all here for it.
You can make gunpowder! powder, mixed equal amounts of sulfuric acid, potassium, sulfur, and charcoal. If this is a war with swords and bows, you'll have to take advantage of the wind, water, and the landscape itself. It is vitally important to wisely use all the things in nature.
If the series wasn't a gigantic train wreck, the same story could have been told with effective dramatic weight, and would have been seriously interesting. And that's one of my key parts of So Bad It's Good. There has to be a good or at least interesting idea in there somewhere. Do I recommend Garzey's Wing? Absolutely. At least watch the first 10 minutes. It's on YouTube. You can skip the rest because the ending doesn't really actually conclude anything. There's a lot of bad campy charm here. And only take an hour and a half of your time compared to watching a full series. Which leads me to Big Order. Big Order is very bad, and has some genuinely hilariously bad moments, but I don't think it's really so bad it's good. The main reason for this is that Big Order has no good or interesting ideas. Garzey's Wing, given more time and better directing, could have been a decent series. There's no way to improve Big Order to a point where it's a workable story without fundamentally changing it. And being 10 episodes long, there's a lot of downtime between the good scenes. Only 10 episodes? Yeah, that's shorter than most anime, but it still feels like there's a lot of time wasted. Of course, that doesn't mean Big Order does not have some entertainment value. Big Order's script reads like a teenager really liked Code Geass and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and wrote up an idea combining the two of them without understanding what made either of the series work. The main character has the power to dominate the will of others, like Code Geass, which was given to him by a mysterious magic girl, like Code Geass, and he ends up fighting against the world government for control of Japan, like Code Geass. But his power, as well as the powers of other important characters, are manifested as awful-looking CGI monsters that only other orders can see, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Specifically the awful-looking live-action JoJo's. Like I said, this show has a few good absurd scenes, and I'll spoil the best one right now to illustrate the occasional peaks the show reaches. There's a character, and by character I mean plot device and fan service excuse, in this story, who's a Miko with fortune-telling abilities, and she has a seemingly alive hair ribbon symbolizing her purity. Her character design completely clashes with the designs of basically everyone else in the show, but, like I said, fan service vehicle. Anyway, she tells Eiji, that's the main character's name by the way, that she can never let a man touch her ribbon or she'll lose her purity and become pregnant. This by itself is a very stupid statement, but within a few minutes of this information being introduced, Eiji accidentally grabs her hair ribbon, and boom, she's now 9 months pregnant. Excuse me, what the fuck? Is this the stupidest thing in the show? Actually no, that comes 2 episodes later, when she suddenly states that the baby disappeared. Yep, she's just not pregnant anymore. No further explanation given ever. This is far from the only bizarre plot cul-de-sac in the show, but I have to say this particular one out-weirded even JoJo's. The series would overall be much funnier if there were equally little explanation given to many of the critical plot elements, instead of the agonizing over-explanation some of them get. There's also, no plot spoilers here, not that you should care, the ending. Plot-wise, the end is just as bad as the rest of the show, but the production clearly ran out of time. There's no color in some of the final scenes, but it's played off as an artistic choice. I don't buy that it's an artistic choice, because the show actually looks better without color. The real casualty of the bad ending is the lack of action. The majority of the final 2 episodes is characters barely moving as they talk through the very dumb ending twists. The fights in the show weren't good, but earlier in the show they at least happened and there was movement. I guess I need to mention more about the overall visuals here. This show looks absolutely awful. The character designs that get actual screen time are painfully generic, but moreover the color palette is just a hideous soup. Every scene is either too bright or too dark, which if I'm being charitable is an attempt to show how awful the world has become after the Great Destruction. But it looks like shit. Any potentially good visual ideas are ruined by the show's art style. I would be hard-pressed to show a single good-looking scene from the show. Overall, I'd say Big Order would still be very enjoyable to watch if you really enjoy cringy edgelord storytelling. The story gets incredibly dark a couple times at the drop of a hat for seemingly no reason aside from shock value. For instance, you have the government trying to get Eiji to surrender by televising executions of anyone related to the main character's rebellion. Eiji's response is to declare that people are worthless to him, and it's an empty act to kill them, and then he guns down his own allies on his end to prove his point. Don't worry, his allies are actually all fine, because this is just edgy for edginess' sake rather than an actual established overall dark tone. This scene comes an episode after Rin, a girl with regenerative powers who can't die, is comedically killed over and over and over by accidents in a series of scenes that feel like Angel Beats ripoffs. And the following episode has a mission full of stupid banter and this ridiculous character design. The edgy elements aren't dark, it's just edge thrown in for the sake of edge. And of course there's a couple completely unnecessary fan service scenes and baths. Heavily censored fan service, of course, to get you to buy the Blu-rays. But yeah, of course there's fan service for no reason that doesn't fit the tone of the show at all. Lastly, there is the surest sign you're watching complete garbage.
お兄ちゃん。お兄ちゃん。
セナ。
大丈夫？お兄ちゃん。
Do you like incredibly cute little sisters who aren't related by blood, but who are slowly dying and the main character wants nothing more but to make them happy? Well, you came to the right place. Because this show should come with a government warning about the number of times Sena says Oni-chan in a desperate pleading voice. The little sister Sena is also the main love interest, which you probably guessed when I stressed that she's not related by blood. So is there anything actually good in Big Order? Well, I can pick out a few good things, I guess. The main theme is nice and jazzy. It's used appropriately as well, to emphasize big moments in fights. The opening theme, on the other hand, is a piece of crap. The rest of the music is unremarkable at best. There's also one order power and one scene I actually liked. The Rebellion Commander What's-His-Face, his name's not important, can freeze 3 objects at a time. This is the only power in the story with a clearly defined limit, and allows for actually interesting situations and fights with clear tactics. Good job, you got one coherent power out of the whole cast. This leads to a dramatic game of chicken with 3 live grenades in play. Both combatants could deactivate the grenades with their power, but doing so would leave them open to attack. No other fight even comes close to this baseline of mildly interesting. The other scene that I surprisingly liked is Rin and Sena eating food. They have a small amount of conversation that builds character instead of just being exposition or smothered by the word Oni-chan. And it's not a rich girl eating fast food for the first time, it's poor girls having fancy expensive food for the first time. And they love it. Just this scene is enough to make me almost emphasize with Sena, if she didn't spend 90% of the plot being repeatedly kidnapped as a bargaining chip. Sena could have worked very well as a character if she was afforded time to do anything before the last few episodes include her in the ever-expanding web of poorly paced twist reveals. Other garbage. Now let's take an aside here and talk about a couple other things I'm not actually reviewing here. Trashy shows. For anime, there's basically one of these every season. Just look for whatever show has girlfriend in the title. Domestic girlfriend, 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 rent-a-girlfriend, my girlfriend is a show bitch. But I didn't watch any of those. Maybe they're actually hidden gems. What I did watch was Masters of Martial Arts and Testament of the New Sister Devil. They are both action shows with a heavy emphasis on partially clothed women, and this appeal to trashiness gives them a very different feel that sets them apart from so bad it's good. Big Order has fan service, yes, but the show is not marketed as fan service. New Sister Devil, on the other hand, is unashamedly about hot girls, even if the main plot is similarly serious with just as convoluted action and plot twists as Big Order. I watched Sister Devil and laughed with it. I watched Big Order and laughed at it. Presentation is everything. Anyway, Testament of the New Sister Devil is great. It is very self-aware when it uses tropes and takes them one step further. Any anime could have the male protagonist wake up with a hot girl crawling into his bed. Testament of the New Sister Devil has the main character wake up with a hot anime girl crawling inside his shirt.
朝ですよ。起きてください、バサラさん。
Masters of Martial Arts, on the other hand, is so bad I barely even mentioned it in this aside. It's bad fights and generic characters with boobies, and knows you're only there for the boobies. Its only real plus side is that as an OVA series, it could easily actually show all of its boobies. Back to Big Order. So, do I actually recommend Big Order? Absolutely not, but that won't stop some of you anyway. There's nothing to gain by watching this failed attempt to tell an absolutely pointless story. But at least Big Order tries something, even if it has no good ideas to base itself on. The third thing I watched was Robo-Geisha, a live-action Japanese movie which sounded amazing, but it had zero aspirations and as such it completely fails as entertainment. Despite its only 100-minute runtime, it's the slowest of the bunch, with even the scenes that should have been hilariously bad drawn out far too long to be entertaining. You would think it would be hard to screw up a movie where two sisters who are geishas also become cybernetically enhanced assassins, but you would be mistaken. Robo-Geisha is just low-quality schlock. It either needed to take itself more seriously to get to a so-bad-it's-good charm, or fully embrace its silliness and pick up the pace. It does neither, leaving the end result a boring mess, where even its ridiculous high moments just don't land. Watching this movie in double speed would probably improve it a lot. Please have things happen faster. Spraying bullets from a breast-mounted machine gun is funny for a couple seconds, but not firing on full auto for what feels like a minute, especially when it only takes a single gunshot to kill someone when the script decides, hey, somebody needs to actually die now. Another example. In one scene, Robo-Geisha uses her secret weapon, the ass sword. It's an extra blade that comes out of, guess where? If this were a 10-second cut or even just a short fight facing backwards, it would be great. Instead, this fight takes several minutes and is just awkward as there's no cool way to shoot or perform an ass sword fight. This movie has bad writing, bad editing, bad special effects, bad acting, and bad sets. The sets are especially baffling because some of them are real locations that look, well, actually real, and a couple sets are pretty good. But then there's a couple sets that just look absurdly cheap and awful, or worse, an ugly CGI background from a green screen. It's not funny, it's just lazy. One other sin is that this movie starts at what appears to be the middle of the plot, with Robo-Geisha showing up to defend an assassination target. The movie implies that it's telling you the story that leads up to this scene, but it just never comes back to this scene. It just never actually happens in the plot at all. It's a complete lie to the audience. That's just insulting to the viewer. Thought you were going to see a conclusion to this little mystery at the start? No, screw you. One other thing completely unrelated to the movie itself. I find it interesting that I watched Robo-Geisha on Funimation, the anime streaming website. I have no idea why they have streaming rights to a few live-action movies, but they do. It's just a strange extra thing to have and not advertise at all. They have a few anime movies as well, but there's not even a category on the website to distinguish movies from the episodic series that make up most of their catalog. Please advertise your movies, Funimation. But not this movie. Don't watch Robo-Geisha. It's just not any fun at all. And that about wraps up this review. Check out the rest of my channel for other reviews and stuff. Now on to watching things that aren't quite as awful.